Have you watched Wayward on Netflix? Well, it is this creepy psychological thriller that we have to talk about from a licensed therapist perspective. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kiaundra Jackson, licensed therapist. If you are new here, hey, welcome. But if you are a returning subscriber, you already know how my movie and TV show reviews go. Full disclaimer, there will be spoilers in this video. So if you have not watched Wayward, go on over to Netflix. It is a limited series, meaning this is the only one that's gonna happen and there isn't gonna be any seasons after this, but it's about 8 episodes long. And from my perspective, I think it was worth it. I was blown away when I read on Reddit that some of y'all hated it. And then there was a whole other group of people that loved it. I loved it, but we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. First thing that we have to talk about from a licensed therapist perspective is this trauma and trauma bond that is happening all throughout Tall Pines. Every single person in this city, and even the people who went to Tall Pines Academy, was bonded by trauma. I feel like they had this philosophy that your past determines your current behavior and that kids are shaped by the past. And one of the biggest themes in regards to the trauma bond that everybody is experiencing in this city and in the academy is their memories. Evelyn, who we're gonna talk about a little later, does a great job at messing with people's minds. Anybody that is experiencing grief or loss or traumatic experiences or issues with their parents or whatever they experienced in their past, those things can warp your memories. In the field of psychology, there is something called suppression, and that is when you deliberately not try to think about things that happened in your past, like painful memories, experiences, or even some thoughts. But then there's also something called repression, and that is when unwanted thoughts, feelings, and memories are being subconsciously pushed out of a person's awareness. And I think what was happening here in Tall Pines was the latter, the repression, because Evelyn did an interesting job with making people suppress their emotions, forget about it, or even wipe them out completely in regards to the leap, which we'll talk about shortly. The second thing we have to talk about is this concept of radical honesty. I didn't even know that that was a real thing, because in the psychology field, we also have something called radical acceptance. And radical acceptance is when you take things as they are, you accept your reality without trying to change anything or try to fight it. When I did some more research, I found that radical honesty is a thing, and it was coined by Dr. Brad Blanton, if I'm pronouncing his name appropriately. From his perspective, it involves a person telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Essentially, what he's saying is like, always tell the truth, even the things that hurts people feeling, even the little white lies that we tell people. He was like, don't do any of those things, because what happens is when you're radically honest, it builds a connection with you and others. I don't know about that one, but let's keep the conversation going. This concept of radical honesty jacked up all of the teenagers at Tall Pines Academy. When they were in that little circle, which was kind of like a group therapy situation, they had to really talk messy and down and nasty to each other, and that was not okay. It was really verbal, emotional, and psychological abuse that was happening in that circle. Telling people the things that they told other people, whether that was on the premise of being honest or not, was very hurtful. That's why people would break down, they would go into hysteria, they would cry, they would do all of those things. Evelyn thought that it was cool and like, yes, this is a breakthrough, but no, this was abuse. It was kind of messed up because it felt like everybody had to say something in those group sessions. Like if you didn't say something, something was wrong with you for not speaking up and being nasty and mean to somebody else. And it also kind of felt like you would get in trouble if you really didn't participate the way that you were supposed to. Now that whole, thank you for your honesty, thank you for your feedback, thank you for, that was crap. That was bull crap. They were just forced to say that. It wasn't no thank you. I'm not gonna thank somebody for verbally and emotionally abusing me. And before we move on, it has come to my attention that only about 4 to 5% of you guys who watch my videos are subscribed to my channel, and we need to get that number way up. So if you are enjoying this video or any of my other ones, please, it would mean the world to me if you just simply hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button, because it does help me to create content like this for you every single week. Before we move on to the next thing, that whole huddle at the end of that group session where they all have to come and say, we love you, and hold on to one another and do all of those things. I don't know about y'all, but that felt very sexual to me. It felt like a little mini orgy was about to happen. I think it touched on something powerful because remember, they couldn't touch each other in the Tall Pines Academy. So on those rare occasions when they could huddle and hug each other and go into that little sexual group situation, I think that that was the only form of touch that they were looking forward to. So they overdid it essentially. And it's interesting because I did another video on touch starvation. Now, obviously it's not attached to a movie or a TV show, but it's about real life touch starvation. And I want to put it up here. I'll put it in the description for you guys to check it out if you're interested in that. Now let's talk about Evelyn and this cult, because it is absolutely, positively a cult. Evelyn and Laura had this very interesting and special relationship. I mean, Evelyn kind of bent over backwards to make sure that Laura and Alex came back to town, did all of the things, set them up in the house, and had everything that they need to thrive in the city. We know that Laura went through the leap ceremony, which jacked her all up. Truly, like, Laura was moving up in the ranks and Evelyn was moving to the side because Laura started having all of these group meetings in her home, talking about she would never leave Tall Pines, and they did that whole little weird group hug, sexual orgy thing with her. And I was like, oh, this is the rise of Laura's leadership. This is the rise of Laura as the cult leader. Evelyn is moving away and getting pushed to the side. And also she was doing that whole like energy work on people. And it was like, ma'am, you need to do that energy work on yourself because you have suppressed and repressed memories that you need to work through, because Evelyn took them away from you and you really don't know what happened in your childhood or where your parents are or what happened to them. It was like Evelyn was slowly grooming her, whether it was intentional or unintentional, conscious or unconscious, to hand over power to be the next leader. And if we're being honest, nobody, not one person in this whole entire town had any sense of agency or any sense of free will. They were basically all under Evelyn's little power. And that's why everybody had a little vendetta against Alex, because Alex obviously was not from there and he questioned everything and he was trying to explore and figure out stuff like, why is this happening? This is a little weird. Why aren't you guys doing anything? I didn't know this, but this whole entire series was based on real life self-help groups that came out of the 70s. Where this was like a real thing, like conversion therapy in regards to the queer community or the LGBTQIA plus community. I was watching an interview that Mae Martin did, who happens to be Alex in this series. And he was like, oh, I had this fascination with everything that was going on in the 90s. And this is actually from a real life story. I was like, ooh, this is juicy. Let's talk about family real quick. So, because they were all trauma bonded, right? And everybody thought that Evelyn was so amazing and perfect, they kind of seemed like they were this one big happy family. Comes this baby that Laura and Alex is about to have, and it's going to be the first baby that the town has had probably doggone ever. Can you imagine what kind of trauma that baby is going to experience growing up being the only child in a whole entire town, no other kids, nobody else to play with? They're just passing down generational trauma from generational trauma. But to make the baby everyone's, like, this is our baby, was creepy. When they all started taking off their shirts, getting naked to do skin to skin after Laura gave birth, I said, oh, this is a lot. I think that that's going to do more damage on top of the kid being the only one in town, because Laura expressed that she didn't have a connection with her baby throughout this whole entire time. When the baby was kicking in her womb, she felt nothing. You know, and most women who are mothers to be, they're just like those, they thrive. They wait for those moments to feel their baby's kick. And she was just kind of like, meh. This whole little chant thing that they were doing, laying down on your back, you're calling out to your mother, whatever it was that she said, that gave me some real creepy spiritual vibes. Felt like a spell. It felt like a hypnosis or something. And I think that that was absolutely a form of what was happening when they would be in the mirror room. On repeat, Evelyn saying the same thing over and over, that whole entire chant. And it was mentioned so many times throughout this series. Kind of almost like Evelyn was a little witch, but that's another conversation for another day. I couldn't leave this review without talking about the toad. I think the toad, the frog, whatever you want to call it, had some huge significance in this series because all of the time the toads were making noise. Laura actually killed a toad and put the toad down the garbage disposal, which was absolutely disgusting. Like, this absolutely has to have some significance. So I did a little bit of digging and some research, and toads can represent transformation or a new birth of self. It can also represent adaptation, adaptability, groundedness, but it can also represent something dark. And we know there's a lot of dark stuff happening in that town. Overall, I thought this was good. I normally don't watch stuff like this because I'm real scary. I don't watch scary movies. I don't watch anything that's very suspenseful or like a psychological thriller like this. It's not typically something that I watch, but because it was in the top 10 for so long, it was number 1 on Netflix for a long time, I was like, let me see what all the hype is about. But this ended for me weird. I had too many unanswered questions. For this to be a limited series, meaning there isn't going to be another season for us to get any additional information, they could have gave us more context clues instead of leaving us all in la la land. Truly happened to Evelyn at the end. Why Alex didn't leave with the baby like we thought he did? Did Laura really kill her parents? Did Lila actually kill her sister? Will Laura be a good mom even though she doesn't feel the connection? Like, those are all of the questions that I had, and I get why Alex didn't leave because they got a lot of dirt on him. They know he killed a whole bunch of people. They know he has anger issues from his past and his upbringing, so they would try to use that against him if he was ever tried to leave or go to another police academy. But overall, I thought this was an 8.5-ish out of 10 for sure. I know some of y'all hated it and was like, this was trash, but I absolutely liked it, even though I don't typically like stuff like that. So thank you so much for watching another review on my channel. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Be blessed. Bye.